Hi everybody. In this video, I'm going to walk us through the syllabus for EHD 573 for this summer. I'm not going to read it line by line. You can do that on your own, but I just want to hit some of the key points so that we're all on the same page. Okay, so starting with the syllabus here, you'll notice my office hours are a little different than I typically do. It's split between two times in the morning and late in the evening, and that just reflects the fact, as I noted in my intro video, that I'm going to be out of the country until the end of July. So this way our time zones kind of line up at reasonable times, but you can either do morning or evening depending on whatever works best for you. Okay. And of course, I'm happy to meet outside of office hours and do one-to-one Zooms or just shoot back emails as well, back and forth if you've got questions. Never hesitate to reach out to me. Okay, so for this course, this is an intro to stats course. We are covering kind of a hypothesis testing as well as some descriptive statistics. How do you describe your data? Inferential statistics about using our data to make inferences about what we think is going on in the world around us. Specific tests, statistical tests we'll learn are kind of the core intro tests, a z-test, t-test, one-way ANOVA, chi-square test. We'll also touch on regression. Okay, and this is the kind of the groundwork if you go on to take Stats 2 with me, which is EHD 574. Okay, we do have a required textbook, Kaladarchi and Cobb. I recommend the physical copy of the book. Students, there is, if you can get an electronic copy, I regularly hear back from students that they prefer the physical copy in hindsight, but you can do an electronic copy if one's available. That's just completely up to you. We do use Brightspace extensively for the course. It is an asynchronous online course. You'll look at the Brightspace video and kind of you'll see how I've got the course lined up. But key is that your links to videos, your links to submitting the homework, all of that is in Brightspace. So you have to be using Brightspace. Our grades are based on a total of 5 assignments worth 60 points each for a total of 300 points. And the assignments, again, are they have to be submitted into Brightspace. You can't send them to me and do it that way. The assignments are open book. You look at the book, you can look at the videos, you can rewatch things, you can reread things as you can use slides. We'll talk about that later that I've made for you when you're doing the assignments. That's all great. Uh, Assignments are split into two parts. So I said that each assignment is worth 60 points. Now, 50 points of that is your kind of your typical classical assignment where you'll have multiple choice, some questions, some calculations that you'll have to do as part of that. And again, that's open book. You can watch the book, you can rewatch the videos as you're doing that. If you get stuck, you can ask me questions. Um, but that's 50 points of each assignment. Then there's an additional 10 points, which are the easiest 10 points you're ever going to get for an assignment. And that just involves sending me, now here, this you do email me a copy of your work. So when you, whatever work you're doing for the assignment, your calculations and that, send me a copy of it and you get 10 points. That's the easiest way you'll get 10 points. Uh, this helps me to, you may kind of wonder, why am I doing that? Well, it helps me to see how you're solving problems. If there's issues that students in the class are having, if I see some common problems or some common mistakes people are making, it helps me to see that and I can kind of then point it out to everybody. Um, and also, if you have questions, it just helps me to work with you over that I can kind of see your work and kind of, oh, this looks to be where you've made your mistake. So again, send me an email attaching a copy of whatever work you did. Now, you don't have to create busy work for yourself. If you don't actually do work for some problems, um, that's okay. You don't feel you need to kind of duplicate everything. But the work that you've done, send me a copy of that. If you do it in Excel, which is great because we do a lot of calculations, that's great. Send me a copy of your Excel file. That works fine. Um, it needs to be in specific formats that I list here in the syllabus, either Word documents, like I said, an Excel file. You can take, if you can save it as a PDF, you can send me an Adobe PDF file. If nothing else works, you can take pictures and send me a picture of every page. Students will do this. Just take out your smartphone, take a picture of the pages, and send me those page by page, and I can put that together that way. That works fine as well. Um, it needs to be in one of these formats, though. You can't, if you do it in Apple Notes, you can't send me Apple Notes because I don't use Apple. So I can't open it. So you need to, if you do Apple Notes, save it as a PDF or a Word document before you send that to me. Now, I am a believer in mastery learning, particularly for stats. So you can redo the assignments as many lot times as you'd like in order to improve your grade. Now, there is a modest adjustment I make when you resubmit, because there's a difference between someone who kind of sits down, puts a lot of work in, and gets 100 on the first try versus someone who takes several attempts to get 100%, to answer all the questions correctly. So there's a slight adjustment that I make each time you submit. And this, you'll see this when you submit your work in Brightspace. Um, there's the final question is asking which submission is this. If it's your first submission, you get 6 points. If it's your second attempt, you get 4 points. If it's your third attempt, you get 2 points. And if it's your fourth or fifth or sixth or whatever more, you get no points. So again, so the first time you submit it, you'll get all 6 points, but you at the most you'll ever lose is those 6 points. So if you keep doing it over and over and over, you can always get at least 54 points for the total assignment, which is an A minus, right? Because if let's say it takes you 5 times to get 100%, you'll end up with the full 50 points on the homework piece minus the 6, which would be 44. But then as long as you submit a copy of your work, you get the full 10 points for that. So that gives you 54 out of 60, which is 90% or an A minus. You can always get at least an A minus on every single homework assignment as long as you give yourself enough time to see what you get wrong and email me if you've got questions, come to office hours if you're stuck, rewatch the videos, reread the book, Zoom one-on-one with me if you get stuck. Give yourself the time that you can submit it, see what you've missed, and revisit the material again or talk to me so that you can redo it and get the full credit. And as long as you do that, well, you don't get the full credit because you get the adjustment, but you know what I mean. You get all the answers correctly. As long as you do that, you can always get at least an A minus on every test, on every homework assignment, which is great. Okay. If that's unclear, make sure you send me an email, let me know. Now, I should point out your grades can never go down. So if you end up redoing it and because some students will get like 99%, they'll miss one little thing and they want to redo it just to make sure they understand that. But then they're saying, well, but I don't want to potentially lose points and get a lower grade. No, you always get the highest score you get. So don't worry about that. There's no downside to redoing it. In fact, I kind of love it when students redo the assignments, even if it's not really going to help their grade, because they want to master material, which is awesome. Okay. Rounding is extremely important because we're doing calculations. And if you round too much, you're going to get the wrong answer in the end. And I've got some descriptions here to explain how to do it. We do some examples that you'll see as well later into the class to help you make sure you are round. The key is basically carry all of your calculations to at least three decimal places or three decimal places or at least three digits if the absolute value, if it's like between -1 and +1, so it's like a fractional value, go to three non-zero digits. So if it's like 0.000, the example here, 0.004896, round that would round to 0.00490. Don't round it to two places and say, "Oh, that rounds to 0." I've seen students do that. They'll round too much and end up with rounding to 0, and then it's like, "Oh, the problem's easy." No, you just lose the points. So don't do that. Um, Again, let me know if you've got questions about this. Um, Now, kind of an easy solution to the rounding problem is do the calculations in Excel. If you do all the work in Excel, Excel rounds to like 18, 16, or 18 decimal places. So it's never a problem, and that's great. So kind of, and it will use if you can call on other cells. So you do the calculations in cell A1, and then you use those answers in cell B2, and then blah blah blah. You can kind of just keep using those rounded values. Is great. Again, to make it clear, I'm happy for students to use Excel um, for the calculations. You can use the saying that, I should point out as well, still do the calculations. Don't think that you may see, ooh, Excel will do a t-test for me, but as we'll talk about in class, it may do some of the, or calculate a standard deviation for me, but it does things often a little differently than what we will be reporting. So if you just try to use it to do your work, to give you the answer, it may give you the wrong answer. Now, it may not make sense. Why would it give me the wrong answer? It'll make sense as we get into class. There's different ways of looking at some concepts that we're going to be doing. Um, so, and besides, I don't want you to do that. I want you to do all the calculations by hand because it starts to let you see how the numbers are related, and how the numbers kind of flow and work to give you the final answer so you don't end up with some number that doesn't make sense, that has no intuitive value. If you do the calculations to get there, you start to better understand, what does that number mean in the end? What's that number telling me in the end? So I want you to actually do the calculations. Okay. Um, Grading, we have a total of 300 points, right? Five assignments worth 60 points each. Um, I do a straight 90, 80, 70 with plus and minuses in there as well. Due dates, everything is due at 11:59 p.m. on whatever the due date is. Now, to start, everything is due on a Friday of a week. I start the week on the Monday, and then, as you'll see in a minute, we start the week on a Monday, and then Friday, 11:59 p.m., the assignment is due, and it's because you're submitting it into Brightspace, it's time stamped. So I'll know if it's a little late. There's a 5-point deduction for your homework assignments each day you submit it, or partial day you submit it late. And if you're 5 minutes late because it's time stamped in Brightspace, it gets flagged as being late and you lose some points. Okay. Um, the If you've got questions about your grade, let me know. Send me a written email to let me know within a week, but it needs to reflect a problem with the question. Simply explaining why you got something wrong is great. It's nice you've got the insight to see what you did wrong, but that's not the basis for getting the points back. Now, I know some students have actually told me that. They said, I know you're not going to give me the points, but gosh, I felt kind of silly that I got this wrong, and I just want to let I know you need to do this. That's fine. If it makes you feel better, makes me feel better, that's good. But um, anyway, keep going. As I mentioned, um, the homework assignments are open book, and that includes slides. Now you'll see we've got a lot of videos for this class, lots of videos that I've put a lot of effort into. And for the videos, I make slides to go along with them for you to use. That's actually a lot of work because sometimes I've really almost all the time I have to make two copies of them to give you a handout version of it. Um, but think of them as detailed lecture notes that you can just work on. You can kind of write right on the paper slides. So print out the slides and use them as study guides when you're doing the work. Notice I've actually even put that in capital letters here. Um, that the it's again, take advantage of that work I've done, and I will regularly get students halfway through the semester that'll be saying, "Oh, I should have printed off the slides," or we'll be asking questions. They'll be asking me questions, and you know, that it's clear that they didn't save copies of the slides to reference, and it's like, "No, no, don't do that." They're open book, and you'll want to it's handy when you're doing the assignment to have, "Oh, here's the slides where Craig worked through this for with in the video," and I can kind of just go along with that. Take advantage of those slides. Stay caught up. Course will take more than the typical 3 credit course. It just does. The So stay caught up. When students struggle in the class, um, or end up getting a bad grade at the end, it's almost inevitably because they got too far behind and it became impossible to catch up. So stay caught up. Set a regular pace, a regular schedule. I've built in a little wiggle room over the summer, so if you want to finish early, you can go faster. If you need to start a little slow, you can do that, but then stay caught up. Okay. I think it's best to study the material every day a little bit than try to cram it all in on the weekend. It's just a more efficient way for this stuff to get kind of stuck in your head. I think study groups or study partners are great for a stats class. So, definitely if you've got, I'll set up a forum. We'll see in the Brightspace video where you can connect up with other students if you're either interested in forming a group or forming a group and looking for people to come in. Um, just don't do each other's homework. If someone's got for or don't give each other answers. If someone has a question or they're stuck, talk them through it. If you understand it, use it as a teaching opportunity for you. That helps you master the material better, and it helps them to hear an explanation from a different person in maybe a slightly different way. Everybody's a winner. Okay. Um, Make sure you give yourself time to submit the work early so that you can see that even if you think, oh, I've got this, if you end up missing things, you want to have time to do the redo or to ask me to watch the videos again, read the book a little more, ask me the questions. So give yourself time. You can redo the assignment so you always get an A minus, but you got to give yourself enough time to take advantage of that. If you got questions, ask me questions. You can email me. You can come to office hours. You can post them in the discussion forums. Um, don't hesitate. I love this stuff. So I'm happy to talk about it. You're not bothering me if you ask me questions about statistics or research. Um, there's end of chapter problems in the book. The starred ones have answers in Appendix B. I think that's great practice for you to do if you want a little extra practice. Students will ask me if they should read the text before or after watching the video, and I used to kind of I've kind of, well, it doesn't matter. I've kind of gone back and forth over the years because students will tell me some students like to read the book and then watch the videos. Some students will say, I watched the videos and then the book makes more sense. Probably a little more students like watch the videos then read the book, but whatever works for you is good with me. Um, Policies, again, don't copy someone's answer, don't give them answers. That's cheating, but you're all grad students. You know better than that. Incompletes, I should point out that there's a strict university policy on incompletes. that I do follow. You can't get an incomplete just to avoid a bad grade. You can't get an incomplete because you run out of time at the end. You need to be kind of passing the course. We need to be passing the course. You need to be at least halfway through. And we draw a line at that point and kind of come up with how you'll finish the rest of the course. Now, that said, I understand life gets in the way. Trust me, I've dealt with uh, family with serious health issues, and so I'm sympathetic with if life gets in the way and you need an incomplete. But just talk to me first. Talk to me as soon as you have concern that you may need an incomplete, because then we can start planning. Once I can't go back in time, and if it's the end of the semester and you want to say, well, I know I've bombed the course, but can I get an incomplete because of this? It's too late. It's once we have that initial conversation, that's when we kind of draw the line and can kind of work on the future stuff. But what you've done to that date does stay for your grade, okay? So if you're thinking you may have issues or some issues are coming up, talk to me, and then we can start to plan what may be necessary. Okay. Don't hesitate. I am sympathetic to that. Link to other humane policies. Then here's the syllabus, the schedule, I mean. And this is color coded to kind of show what goes with which assignments. So you can kind of see, just to kind of make things clear, these, and also it highlights how much time you've got. Look, by week 3, so week 1 starts Monday, May 12th. Week 3, by the end of week 3, you've covered everything for, um, oh, that's kind of funny. I'll have to fix this. For homework 1, that's because I did a search and replace for the date at the bottom of the, that's funny. But anyway, so homework 1 is due, 1, 2, 3 weeks later, the Friday, 3 weeks later. So you've got plenty of time to do your homework. I'd suggest as soon as you finish the material, do the homework right away so that then you can see, oh, here's what I've missed. And you've got plenty of time to rewatch things, to watch the video, read the book, talk to me a few times if you need to. So don't delay. You've got so much time that covers anything. You don't want to wait and then you have computer problems or what, you get sick. No, take advantage of all that lead time that I'm giving you. Okay? So that is the uh, that's our syllabus. If you have questions, let me know. All right. Otherwise, have a great summer. Take care. Bye bye.